Hi there friends, it's your favorite neighborhood nerd Simone. Today I finally want to update you on my planner or journal stack for 2025. This is basically the half-year check-in, a little late, but I also think my very first one was a little late. So here is all the books that I am using or not. Let's check in. This was my 2025 Techo Kaigi list for when I filmed the first time, and I'm going to go in the exact same order as I did when I shared that video. This way, if you want to go back and compare tiny snippets of the videos, it's the easiest. And it also helps me to make it most effective for me. So this is a And Liebe Hobonichi Weeks cover. I have the, other people are better informed than me. This cover, this Hobonichi Weeks in here, it's by Kusano Masamune is the artist, and it was instant love when I saw this in the Hobonichi reveal last August. So I knew that this was going to be the Hobonichi Weeks that I was going to be using in 2025. And that's about all that I can say about this, because I am not as consistent in using this planner as I would like to be. Sometimes I notice that my brain is very cluttered with things that I want to do, things that I want to write down. But I'm not really enticed to go and take note of all the things. I'm going to show you quickly how I use this. I don't use these yearly overviews for anything. This one I backfilled the data sometime in March. And it's basically the amount of miles I walk every day. And I started to make an effort of getting a certain amount of miles in every day around March. And so it was really interesting to see how many miles I would actually walk in a day. And what I liked, or what was interesting to me specifically, is when I didn't pay attention and when I started to pay attention. So this is the daily miles that I walk. The bottom is the total amounts that I walked in a month. And the first number is the miles, the second number is the kilometers. I am noting the longest and the shortest walked distance day. I added up the quarters up here, and then this is the total for the 6 months. At some point, I tried to get over 5 miles every single day. Now that fell off in June, and it will probably stay that way through July, August. I don't know about September. May was a good month for walking. It just flaked off at the end of the month when it was too hot. So I hope to get back into the over 5 mile walk distance by the beginning of September. Maybe even if we say these are the 2 hottest months, maybe it could even be August that I am starting to see the possibility to walk longer distances. I don't know if this is interesting to you, but I live in a place where it's really hot in the summer, and so I'm not walking at night. I just cannot change my whole daily rhythm so that I can get the steps in those hotter summer months. And because I'm usually walking with my dog, I am not going to exhaust him when it's too hot. What we do is usually we go to the dog park in the area, which we can get there even if it's hot. We walk slowly, we walk in the shade, and then at the dog park, it's usually very windy so that the temperature can't be felt as much. And then we keep to the shaded areas. He runs for the ball maybe 3 or 4 times, and then we just hang out there and chill out and come back home. Most of the time, at the time when Max is ready to go out in the afternoon, even in the summer, there is no other dog there. So we can just hang out there and be chill. And that's why this is actually reflected in the mileage in June. I am actually surprised that I got to such high numbers, but most of the time those are when I'm working, because that's when I also walk while I work. The monthlies are too tiny for me. I am using a digital calendar that I share with my family, and so I don't need to have these overviews. Sometimes it would be good. And I am actually not planning to go back into a Hobonichi weeks in 2026. And I'm currently deciding between a 5 plotter or Bible size plotter. And the bigger space for the A5 might be the deciding factor for an A5. I tried to put my YouTube schedule on here, but I quickly realized that I'm not the type of person right now who needs the YouTube schedule planned out. I am filming what I feel like, and then it just gets slotted in to the next open spot. Most of the time I share videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays with my snippets from my desk videos on Sundays. Wednesdays videos are only happening if I have enough time and ideas. And so, it's like, okay, do I have a lot of stuff to say? Then I have a Wednesday video. If I don't, then not. And then I just space them out and add them to the lineup, to the next open slot, basically. That's as far as my YouTube planning goes. I write down when I have an idea somewhere, and if I'm sitting down to film and I still want to film that, then I do, and if not, then I don't. Here I shortly thought I was going to record the miles in the monthlies, but that I didn't like that at all, so I went into here. And so you see, in March I started keeping track. And that's about it for the monthlies. I haven't used them since. We are in July. There's nothing here. And then here is a quick flip through the weekly sections. I am a visual person, and to be honest, I like when there is decoration. Not a lot, but having this here entices me to use it more than a completely blank page. So I am using it sporadically, so not all the time. I'm trying to be in here weekly, but it's not necessarily a given thing. And I'm not forcing myself. I know that I would work better, or my life would be better if I used it, but I'm also not, if I'm stressing myself out about using a planner and I just can't get into it, then that is just not how I would like to live. So I'm just gonna not use it, you know. In theory, I know that I work, my life is better when I use it, but it seems like I can't make myself. I have the thought that because Hobonichi is such a disappointment right now with their paper, that just the fact that it's called Hobonichi is what is keeping me from being gung-ho about it. I recently switched from using my Pilot Vanishing Point with an extra fine nib to this Uni Jetstream 4-in-1. It has 4 different colors of the Jetstream refills, and then this is a pencil. My friend Wendy Sue sent this to me recently, and I really like it, and so I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna use this in here. This is my go-to planner pen. I like using fountain pens in my planner, but especially when I struggle, I want easy access, and this is one of those easy access tools for me that help me use the planner rather than prevent me from using it. In the back I have lists, happy mail, YouTube ideas, creative projects, to be read list, Inky projects, my Ko-fi Q1, which I stopped doing Ko-fi after the first quarter of the year. And that's all the lists, I guess. So I'm not sure. I think maybe if I had removable lists, I would use them more, or I'm telling myself at least that that's what would happen. I can't really tell you why I'm struggling with it, but I'm also not really looking to changing it all up right now. What I would like to do in order to decide what size of planner I'm going to use in 2026 is to try the Bible size, which is personal rings and A5 size papers, to take some notes and just see how I feel about the paper size. I think this is not even important right now because there is still so much time left, but a weekly page like this in a Bible size format would totally work for me. But I know that a monthly calendar, if I chose to use it, would be more helpful in A5 size, as well as the notes pages would be. The question is, would I make use of more notes pages if I were in a bigger size? Like, would that actually make sense to change just in case I were using notes pages? Because if I don't, it doesn't really matter what size they are. But that is as much how I use my planner right now. I will keep you updated. I am not planning on moving out of this anytime soon. But the only thing that I'm thinking of right now is if I were to swap out of the Hobonichi weeks, what am I going to do with this cover? Actually, I'm pretty sure that I'm moving out, so I would probably have to sell this. Yeah, that's it. So, notebooks that I wanted to use in 2025. This is the YouTube notebook. I've been using this for years now, and I'm almost done. There's maybe 5 or 6 pages left, And when this is done, I am moving into another B6. Maybe I'm going to use into a standard size TN. I'm not sure yet because it's not full yet. I really like this format though for my YouTube notes. So I have another B6 notebook and it might just be this then. I was going to have a learning standard TN that I have not used. The insert that I was going to use for this, I used for something else. Which brings me to the planner. If I'm moving into a ring planner in 2026, I might incorporate the learning into this, and that would actually speak for an A5, because I remember how cramped I felt when I was using a personal size for a tiny bit several years ago. And so I'm really hesitant about that. The only thing that really speaks for a personal size planner at this point is the slim, similar to this size, that even though I don't normally take it outside of the house, it would be easier to carry. But is this a consideration to make for the 5 times that I take it out? Couldn't I just take the bigger one? Yeah, so we will talk about that planner change in the future, I think. But that is a consideration for 2026, is to incorporate the learning into the Hobonichi weeks. Well, into the planner, not the Hobonichi weeks, for 2026. And then that would speak to an A5 size rather than Bible size. All right, journals. I started the year with 5 journals. This is the Take a Note A5 planner that I used for my weekly creative journal. And I have since moved out of this at the end of June. I am not completely finished with my June pages. I'm trying to be up to date in my journal, and this is not taking priority to fill the pages in, but if I have time and I want to journal, then I will backfill these pages. But I have actually cut it apart right here, took out the leftover signatures whenever, the 30th was on a Monday. And so I just went to the end of this signature, cut everything else out and glued it back together. And I am officially moved out of this. And the reason why I moved out of this is actually that the paper was not up to my standards and expectations. I have started this year to use more of my fountain pens that are currently inked. I started using only black, and then for some reason I was drawn to move to use so when was this? In February, I was still using black and gray. And then when I had a big gap of when I didn't get into my creative journal. And when I came back, I started using my pens more. And that's where the problems actually became very apparent. I had a lot of bleed through. As you can see, this is not very consistent. That also led me to think maybe I shouldn't use a dated journal, because even though I decided not to adhere to the dates, I was actually still doing it. So if I were putting this in here and it happened on the 15th, then there were dates left open, right? which on the one hand, I really like that very narrow vertical layout. And that's why I went to the dated, back to the dated, even though I decided, no, I'm not going to adhere to it, because I actually really like how this looks. Yeah, so I was quite consistent, and then I wasn't, and then I went back to being consistent, and then I went back to not. So it was up and down, just like the rest. But the reason I moved out of this was not the dates, was nothing but the fact that the paper didn't hold up well to the fountain pens. Now, that became extremely apparent when I started my new reading journal, which I might skip around here, which I originally started in this Kokuyo monthly schedule and notebook, and it was not calling to me at all. So I decided, you know what, let me just not do this. And then I decided I would just copy AJ McGarvey is her Instagram handle, her book review notebook. There is actually a review journal by Everyday Explorers Co. that copies her way of documenting books. I purchased that. Let me grab it for you so I can show it. This is how she sets up her book journal. And I decided, no, I don't want to use an A5. Max got his teeth on this. I don't want to use an A5 for this right now. But I did want the stamp set, and I do want to use this at some point. I also wanted to support them. But I just decided to recreate this layout in a similar way that would work for my book log. And this is what it looks like. And then I backtracked all the way to the beginning of the year and started to log all the books that I have read in 2025. I'm currently, so this is all the books that I have read. I haven't filled in my thoughts. This is something that I need to do soonish rather than later. I went from choosing one pen, 2-pen combination for each book, to choosing one pen and 2 pens for each double-sided spread. And then I am printing these covers in batches, and I really like how that works. This is when I received the stamp set, and I went back and just added this genre and the star rating. I haven't done star ratings yet. This is something that I'm still super scared of, which is stupid. Should just go in and do it. And yeah, so now every time I start using, before I move into a next page, I will stamp out all of these things. I forgot the stars here, I noticed. Maybe I'm not gonna add stars, because if I am too hesitant to use them, maybe it's just a sign of me not really wanting to do that. And then what I document is the genre, what format I read the book, which is 99% audiobooks, the publication date of the book, and then just a really short snippet of the thoughts about this book. For instance, let me read what I wrote here. This is about The Love Haters by Catherine Zenter, I think is her. Once I have the picture here, the author would be visible? No, it wouldn't. Well, I am not writing down the author in my journal. I am just writing down the title. This was a really nice rom-com. It was witty and heartfelt, not too superficial, and made me want to check out more from this author. It's very high level. Sometimes maybe I want to note a little bit more, but most of the time, this is what I write down as my thoughts. I'm not expecting a super big review. If I really have more thoughts, then those will go into my actual creative journal. So, but what I was going to say about my creative journal, which we went on the reading journal tangent, so I'm not going to talk about the reading journal again, is that I used all of my fountain pens in this traveler's notebook. This is a lined insert. I don't know if I still have the packaging. Oh yes, this is the Starbucks Roastery Reserve Roastery from Tokyo. This is a lined insert, but I think it's the cream paper. And my fountain pens, all of them, performed extremely well on this. It didn't matter how wet, how broad the nib, how fine the nib. The writing experience was exceptional. And when I started using this, I realized how bad the Take a Note, this is 68 GSM Sans and paper, actually was, and how much anxiety I felt every time I used a fountain pen in here. Is it bleeding through? What if I write too slowly and then the ink will seep through? It was a constant concern, and I don't want to have that when I am doing something that is supposed to bring me joy. And by starting this, I realized how much anxiety I was having about this, and so I decided this is not worth it to me. I took out the rest of the pages because who says I cannot change my journal? That I'm the rule maker, and I decided that rule wasn't the one that I was adhering to. And so I switched to a dot grid insert from the Traveler's Company as well. And it was a super disappointment. I was ready to throw this whole thing against the wall, because what happened was that I used my pens. I started actually journaling here, and the ink would just spread out. And I thought it was the pen and the ink that I used. It was just feathering like crazy. I had the same feeling that I usually have with the Sans and paper in here as well. And I was on the second page. And I was like, no, this is not what I want. So I ripped out the page. I started again. I used a finer nib and everything was fine. And then I moved to this page and used a different pen, and the same thing happened. So if you want to look here, there is bleeding right here. This is a fairly wet nib, but as I said, in my reading journal, I am having no problems with any of the pens and nibs, no matter the wetness, the broadness I had. And that is what I was expecting. And so this was my third entry, and I was ready to completely throw this against the wall, as I said earlier. And so I talked with people on my Discord, and they said, no, actually, for some reason, it seems like some of the paper of the Traveler's Notebook inserts are better MD paper than other inserts, which I don't understand, but I had used this. This is an old one day, one page insert book from MD that my friend Amy gave me when she decided that she wasn't going to continue using it. And I said, I would love to try this and see how I how I get along with it, but this is just too chunky of a book for me. And so I never actually really did. And the problem that this has is the way that it is bound. There is this foamy glue on the back. And so I also never really went and made inserts from this, because my idea was, if I can make this, rebind this into smaller traveler's notebook inserts or even A5 notebooks, then I would be able to use this. But this is just too thick in order to be comfortable and usable after maybe 2 or 3 months of using this. But the problem with this is, as I said, is that this is stuck to the back of the spine right here. And so you can't really take apart these signatures without basically ruining the outermost, set of paper right here. And so what I actually did, because I have so much of this, I decided it doesn't really matter. I can just remove the outermost pages and use the inner ones. And so this is what they look like. There's holes here. There's still, some residue out here. And so I didn't want to, now it's coming off. I didn't want to add that much bulk and also the holy paper. This one is kind of usable still. Maybe I will use that in another one. But I decided, you know what? Because this is already so freaking messed up, let me just try making an insert from this. And so I did. And look at this. Wet nib, wet pen. The only thing that happened was that it smeared because it wasn't completely dry. There's a little bit of ghosting. There's no bleed through. This is what the insert looks like. So basically what it does is cut off this part from this side, but I am not concerned about this at all. I am just going to go with how this works. And if I love how this worked out, once I'm done with it, I will just make another one if I love it. And if I don't, then I will think about other ways to journal creatively. So I started this last week, and I'm on page, so here was my disappointment. Here I journaled about it right here. And then this is another entry that I'm currently working on. What I like about this is that it's also very vertical, just like the pages here are vertical as well. And so I really enjoy that right now. And so that's what I want to do. Maybe if I can, I would like to use every entry is one of these pages, because I really enjoyed that in the take a note, and I want to keep doing what I enjoy. And I'm lucky and happy that I can now use all of my fountain pens in here. I didn't want to go through the process of determining which pens can I use in this insert every time I ink new pens. And so this is where I'm moving towards. I took the cover as well, this cover and this cover, from the grid insert, because I decided it wasn't really, I don't really want to use this then. Maybe I'll use it for some, junky journals or so when it doesn't really matter that much. That's what I could use this for. But this doesn't deserve to be an insert in my house. So I was okay with just taking what I needed from that. And that's for it for my creative journal. I can't really talk about the long-term outcome, how I'm going to enjoy this. So far, I'm really happy I'm using this paper. I'm looking forward to experimenting. I'm really excited, and now that I changed to this paper, yeah, I'm really excited. I'm not dreading using this as I was just 2 days ago or so. So I'm glad I was able to salvage the first 3 entries, and now I'm really looking forward to making more. I'm keeping these 2 inserts, the creative journal and my reading journal, in the newest Traveler's cover, the Wine, Love and Trip. And as you can see, I am not precious with this. There is some scratches on here already, and I couldn't be happier with how this looks. I am not attaching this to anything because most of the time I'm using it outside of the cover. Maybe I'm moving into a separate cover at one point, but for now I'm just keeping it like so. So that was the creative journal and the reading journal that didn't work. I'm just going to keep this as it is for now and decide if I'm continuing using it at a later time. I ripped out the whole calendar part because that is just gone. It's the 2025 calendar, and I'm not ever going to use this in 2025. So this can just be a notebook for whenever I need it. So one notebook that I started 2025 with was this A6 Home. It was supposed to be my long form writing journal, and I started that sometime in January 6th. And that worked well until the end of February. And then for some reason, I also had a little bit of a gap in my journaling, I believe, in February. So I don't really know what exactly happened here. So this is similar. This I copied in from a novel, yeah. I don't really know what happened, but I just didn't have enough time to journal. And I was anxious as fuck, as it says right here. I made some resolutions for how to get rid of that anxiety. I put down some things that I actually still want to transfer from here into here. And then I stopped using it. And I'm okay with that because I also decided to just, if I have something on my mind that needs to be written down, I would just put it in here. So I'm not long form journaling because this is not really long form. This is a small A6 page. And I can get those thoughts onto one of those days right here. And so if I need to long form journal, I will just do that in here. And this is how my journal actually changed, is that I often, and I can show this to you here as well, I'm often putting down a title or a sticker that relates to what I'm writing about. And then I'm actually journaling quite a bit about that. So that's how I've changed from maybe the beginning, where there was still quite a bit of color and all the decoration, which I'm still using decorative elements, but they're more supporting me in storytelling in, than just to be extremely overly decorative. And so this is how this has changed. Like, paying attention is my sport is the prompt that I saw that triggered this entry. And I would almost consider this long form. Long enough for me to be called long form journaling. So I didn't give up on long form journaling in the sense that I started it in 2025. I just incorporated it into my creative journal. Now, so we have the creative journal, we have the long form journal, which are now one. We have the reading journal. The quotes journal is still the same. It is in a Passport Traveler's Notebook. I finished the one that I was using and I started the one that I'm using right now. I made this is what I call a beginner-friendly junk journal, where most of the pages are the same size. I used papers that are all fountain pen friendly to some extent. So I would probably put this in here as well. That's why I'm saying fountain pen friendly to some extent. And whenever I see words from someone else that inspire me, I will put them in here. Most of the time it is from the extravagant hope mailer letter that Brandy sends. There's often stuff that I highlight and I copy out the highlighted text, but I also would put in stuff like this. And I actually need to go back and check if I did copy these over, because I really would love to keep these in one central place. I have two inserts in here. This is the coffee journey. It's also from the Starbucks Reserve in Tokyo, which is a, I didn't know this before I wanted to use it. It's basically pockets. And so some of these words speak to me. I don't want to stick them anywhere. Maybe I'll send them along to a person that I know, that I think, yes, this is for you. And so I keep them here until I want to pass them along to someone else. So I have these two in here. And this is working really well for me. I have no complaints. I've been using this for almost 2 years now. And I think I'm going to keep using it this way for a while. And then the last thing that I'm using is my ink and pen journal. It's basically, this is a Hobonichi A5 blank journal. I think it is sans and paper. Hobonichi wasn't very clear about that in their product description this year. They said they couldn't be bothered to disclaim what it was. I decorated it with stickers that I received over the time. And I am keeping track of what comes in and what goes out every month in the front here. And then in the back, I have monthly divider pages right here. And then I basically just document what I do with my pens and inks. I document the currently inked pens. I write down some ideas, new pen days, Pilot Parallel currently inked, for instance. So I go through this every month. In February, I did a 28 inks, 28 pens, 28 journal entries. Oh, okay. Challenge. And I did that too. And then, so that's how I do this. There's no specific rules on how I'm using this. I've started to stick in more things, like, for instance, where was that? This is like when I tried out the MD cotton paper and I did my currently inked on here, I just stuck it in here. Same with this. And then I also put in some instructions for a folded nib. So this has become quite a thing. I just recently filmed a new state of the collection. I thought half year would be a good thing. This was January. This is June 28th. And yeah, so here is my July currently inked and new pen day videos. This is when I wanted to use this completely. So I left a page open. This was the first time in this whole journal where I left pages empty because I didn't want them to contaminate. That's why I find it so interesting. This paper behaves really well. If this is Sounds and Paper, I don't notice a difference between the other original Tomoe River paper in bleed through. There is quite a bit of ghosting. There is little to no bleed through unless the ink is extremely heavily applied, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. The only thing that I can think of why this behaves so much better than others is because there's no, this is the raw paper, it's blank. Others have been printed on and maybe the paper is treated differently or the printing process changes the way the paper behaves. I don't know. But that is my ink journal and I am using this for whatever I want to document with my pens and inks. And it's going strong and I love it. That is all the notebooks that I'm using in 2025. As you can see, I've eliminated 3 of the ones that I had originally planned. I am not using my learning notebook. I am not using the A6 Hone. These 2 have completely left my lineup. And I swapped out my creative journal for a standard size traveler's notebook and my reading journal for a standard size traveler's notebook. That's it for me. Let me know in the comments down below how your planner stack is working out. Are you using the same things that you've been using from the beginning of the year? How is it going? Are you having fun? Is probably the most important question about this all. If you do, I think you should be using whatever works for you. And if you don't have fun, you should start asking questions. I hope to see you in another video soon. Until then, bye.